We're going to bring together two of our sort of our tracks, cities and transportation, by having a conversation about urban mobility in the age of, urban planning in the age of mobility services. To have that conversation, please welcome to the stage from the city of Palo Alto, Gil Friend, and from the Ministry of Transport and Communications in Finland, Krista Huhtala Jenks.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Joel. Good morning, everybody. And good morning, officially, Krista.
Good morning.
So, Krista, you are the Senior Officer for Digital Services and Mobility as a Service, also known as Cool Stuff.
Yes.
At the Finland Ministry of Transportation and Communications. I'm going to have some cheat notes here, so we've got a very limited amount of time and a lot to talk about. But let's start with what is mobility as a service. This is a term of art that I first heard on a visit to Helsinki a couple of years ago. What is that, and why is it so important to Finland as a nation?
Well, I think mobility as a service, you can look at it from three different sides. So firstly, for the users, we finally want to make transportation and mobility user-centric. So like one of the mobility as a service operators, the first ones that we have in the world coming from Finland, Mars Global, says it means freedom of mobility.
Well, let me stop you there if I can. What's a MAS operator?
So MAS operator is one of those that brings together all the different mobility services, all the options that you can have. We're talking about public transport, microtransit services, for example. So a operator is somebody that brings it all in a handy way together through single user face or interface for the users, and also neatly packages it together. And this is the clever bit about it, because mobility as a service goes really further. It goes beyond just having a route planner with a payment system.
In my phone.
Exactly.
So it's like what I do now with Lyft and Uber, but with every service.
Exactly.
Available.
But it goes way beyond what you have, for example, with Movil or what you have with Move It. Because we kind of believe that do those single door-to-door trips, even if you have a handy way of finding all the different options, and even if you're able to pay for it, that's not really enough for the people to make the change of really leaving their own cars and even moving away from owning and buying their own cars. But you need to have the guarantee. You need to have a service level agreement with the operator. If there's a hiccup, there's always somebody, and it's that mobility operator that you turn to.
So this is like the guaranteed ride home that some employers have, but it's extended across the whole transport network.
Exactly. And it might be that, you might still be able to do a agreement with the operator for having a pay-as-you-go type of package, but it might be also a monthly subscription. So if you think about Netflix or Spotify, you have all the possibilities there in that single service that you're using through your mobile phone, for example, and you have limited options.
What do you mean by limited options? It sounded like you were talking about infinite options. Every different transportation mode.
Obviously, in the MAS world, all of us have different types of needs. So basically, my needs are quite different, I would say, from a student. I have two children. I regularly go to work, but also my children, they already started playing hockey and they started playing football. So my mobility needs are very varied during the day, during the evening, but also during the weekend. So in the MAS world, together with my mobility operator, I can build a package that includes all the options I need 24/7.
So the package is key. It's not just that I have all services available through a single interface, but through a single subscription, like my cell phone subscription, where I might have a different number of minutes or data capacity than you, or my cable service.
Yeah.
So I assemble a package of services to my needs and pay a single monthly fee?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be the single monthly fee, but honestly, how do you really feel confident that all of your services all of your needs are met? And easily, so that, if we're talking about automated driving, we're talking about hands-off wheel. That's what we need with Mars. Hands-off, I don't have to think about it. And the different Mars operators we currently have, they also link their services directly, for example, to your calendars. So you don't have to check, which of the options I choose today, it does that handily for you already.
So the design brief that we have in Palo Alto for transportation strategy is how do we make it more convenient for anybody, anywhere, at any time to not have to get into a car and drive. And that's really what you've been building.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the benefits for commuters and for cities and for urban planning are very clear. If we can get more people out of cars, if we can have less wait time, less congestion and so forth. Why is this important to Finland as a national strategy?
There's, if I put it bluntly, transportation sector, we're not doing that well. For many people, we're not meeting the needs that they have according to transportation. Obviously, the pressure is on for the transportation sector to meet those environmental targets that we have.
If I could interrupt you for a moment here. I mean, the importance of transportation solutions is clear, but in most countries, these are things that cities struggle with as an urban transportation policy. You have a national strategy view of MAS as, not just a transportation strategy, but an economic strategy, right?
Yeah, definitely. So that's the other side of it. So transportation is not efficient on any level. It's not sustainable on the environmental level, but not economical level either. And then the other side of it is that the current market that we have, if we just look at it, about 15% of it people use as services. The rest of it is using their own cars that are extremely inefficient. So what we're saying with MAS, that we can also have economic growth whilst reaching our environmental targets and people to have better mobility, all of this can be gained through MAS, because we can also make that mobility market for companies a whole lot bigger. So and it's a global market out there.
So this is an export opportunity for you,
yes,
as well as a domestic.
Yeah, I think that the case of Uber and Lyft, they're the first cases where transport services have actually become global. Right. But I think that that's only the beginning, really.
That's great. We'll go to the sidebar in just a moment, but let me ask you, this is, clearly there's a lot of technical issues involved in doing this. There's business design issues of how you work a service level agreement that can provide that guarantee. There's technical issues of the software and data systems behind it and the open data requirements to share data across different platforms that might think of it as private. But there's also some pretty significant legal and regulatory issues here. You've just completed, a couple of years' work on the National Transport Code.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We're crazy excited about this. I just said to you yesterday, I don't think that it's legal for civil servants to be so excited about something, specifically about regulation.
Live on the edge. Go ahead.
Exactly. Basically, this is a huge project that we took on. We started about a year ago. It works really on 3 levels. One is the actual transport market level, so where we have the physical different market sectors now, like taxis, public transport, goods transport. So what we want to do is to streamline all of the regulation as far as possible. We're not in the business of putting out fires. We, for example, do not see that the right way about it is just to regulate whenever there's a new type of service popping up. But we actually want to make it horizontally as streamlined the regulation as possible. So on that level, we're deregulating heavily. But then on the flip side of it, the other side is data. And I truly believe that most people have not yet grasped how important this will be. But to truly digitalize, and we're talking about leapfrogging in the transport sector with this bet. So we will be obligating all transport service providers to open certain sets of data but specifically also opened their ticketing and payment APIs to third-party service providers. And this is key, crucial for mobility as a service to become a reality.
Yep. This is really exciting to me and frankly kind of frustrating because, as you know, Palo Alto has great aspirations in this area, but we're 66,000 people in a multi-million person metro. The solution only comes at the scale of the San Francisco Bay Area, and we've got more transportation agencies per million people than probably anywhere on Earth.
Yeah.
So how do you build the kind of broad coalition of very different and very competing interests that have to collaborate to make this work?
I think, funnily enough, I came to, I was watching the Lord of the Rings movies the other day while I was writing a speech for the minister at the same time. And all of a sudden I came to this conclusion that, the transport sector, it's full of Gandalfs that are shouting like, "You shall not pass." And they all think that they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But Gandalf and Saruman, they're both like these skinny old dudes with long white hair, so it's kind of hard to tell. So basically, loads of people are still keeping, whether it's their APIs closed, because they think that that's their core business. And they're trying to grip nail and tooth to the user interface, or to the customer interface. But we're talking about such huge behavioral change that we need. We also, for that change to happen, we also need the supply and demand to be huge and to happen really at the same time.
Yep.
So this is what we need. We still need Gandalfs, but the Gandalfs that go like, "Hey, everybody, we're here, open arms, let's work together." So it's basically, we've had this conversation over and over and over again. And I think once you realize what the benefits are, and specifically that we're not talking about the 15% market that we currently have, but we're talking about a market that is a whole lot bigger where everybody can benefit.
Well, the market's 100% potentially. I have a follow-up question. Let's see if we have something from the sidebar here.
Yes, so we got one question via Twitter about whether or not this is similar to Google's Sidewalk Labs, where they have a digital mobility system where they're trying to create a digital mobility system that can manage limited road space to improve transportation equity and air quality. So there are aspects to MOS, I think, that are similar. I think the bigger question is really, with these other initiatives that have similarity, are you partnering with them? Are you working with them to help them understand best practices? Tell us about some examples of what you're doing with others.
I think that one of the brilliant things has been that from the beginning we were saying that we need to go global. We need to work with everybody. And I'm so happy that Palo Alto and you, Gil, have been one of the people that we've got to work with. And we're talking about a huge puzzle that has so many pieces that we really need everybody's input. But when it comes to, for example, Sidewalk Labs, I think that there's some really, really cool stuff there. Some really quite freaky stuff as well, if you're thinking about that one single company would possibly have all of our data. But that's why in Finland, we're also talking about if we want to make our regulation that is not future-proof, but it's future-ready.
Yep.
We're also working on initiatives like My Data. We're working on, the Finnish government has just started, or will be starting, a experiment on basic income. All of these have major possibilities when we're looking at 10 years ahead, how to really solve those big, huge issues that we'll have on sustainability of the whole society.
And it seems that key in your approach is both asking a big enough question of what is it that we really want and looking for ways to develop new forms of business that enable different players to collaborate to bring that forward. I mean, this is why Palo Alto has signed a collaboration agreement with the Ministry of Transportation of Finland together with joint venture Silicon Valley. This is why we've been convening in the Bay Area a quarterly meeting of multiple cities and vendors and major employers. We're tracking, at this point, I think more than 70 or 80 apps that and services that are a piece of the puzzle What we haven't done that you've done is actually weave these together into MOS operators, aggregators delivering services, and a national policy that provides a coordinated platform for moving all this forward. So it would seem that there are, and congratulations for that. It's been a real inspiration for the work we've been trying to do here. It seems there are huge business opportunities here. We don't have a lot of time to go into them now. We're almost out of time, but we will be doing a transportation summit upstairs this afternoon. But in a quick nutshell, what do you see as some of the business opportunities, since there are companies here that may be thinking about or should think about opportunities in the MOS space?
Well, there's obviously still white spaces just in the mobility service sector.
What are the big ones that stand out for you?
Well, for example, I don't think that many people have yet thought about it, but we don't move just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
There's always another reason, another aspect of our lives why we move. And that's also one of the reasons why we see it so important to build this on a whole open ecosystem, open data, open source platforms, is that then we can actually connect the mobility services to all the other services on the other side of our needs.
Including, let it be said, housing and urban design and urban form.
Yes, exactly.
Do we make a condition of development to have minimal amounts of parking spaces, which has been the tradition in this part of the world, or as you've been experimenting with in Helsinki, maximum amount of parking spaces and requiring developers to provide MOS services as part of housing?
Exactly. It's all part of the bigger picture, really.
Great. Elaine, you got one more?
Yeah, so wondering how your infrastructure is changing as a result of prioritizing mobility as a service. Are you building your roads in a slightly different way? Are you designing or retrofitting your existing infrastructure differently?
Well, I think that there's once again, there's a lot of considerations going on at the moment. We're currently looking at maybe digitalizing most of our infrastructure as well, for example. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We're working very closely with the different cities, how they can change their building codes and so forth. But then there's the other side of things that we're also looking at how this will be a solution for the sparsely populated areas. Because it's really not only about the cities, but it's for the whole nations, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And Palo Alto, of course, is very different than Finland in our definition of sparsely populated.
Yeah.
But this is a small city with a few commercial centers, and most of the city is single-family homes on large lots. It's too low a density to run traditional transport.
Yeah.
But transport as a service, transport on demand, whether it's a Lyft, Uber, or a dynamic shuttle, as you've experimented with in Helsinki, that starts to provide some options for different levels of needs. As we've talked about before, we've thought a lot about the infrastructure issues. Certainly, if you're going to have a future of autonomous, connected, electric, and shared transportation, as Stefan Heck from Stanford talks about, with probably 80% fewer private automobiles in 10 or 15 years in California, then do we need the amount of road structure and pavement that we have now? That's a big theoretical issue. At a very concrete level in Palo Alto, we're looking at building a new parking structure to respond to pent-up demand for more parking. But if the future that you're talking about keeps going the way that it has been, our demand for parking goes dramatically down in 5 years. So do we build this and tear it down?
Yeah.
Do we build it convertible? Do we not build it? How do we, we have to plan in the face of rapidly changing technology and needs, but it opens up some very big opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to do enabling and agile decisions. You won't know exactly what we need in 10 years' time even, but we need to make it so that we're ready to do these changes quicker.
So how do you engender a culture in government among planners to do that? Because planners traditionally look at past trends and extrapolate them forward and take a long time to put the plans together. And I see we're out of time, so we're going to have to take this question up in the summit this afternoon. The question is, how do you plan for an uncertain future when all of your training is for planning for a predictable future from a stable past? That's not the world we're in now.
Yeah. Quick answer, You hire people, civil servants, that have titles like senior officer for cool stuff.
There you go. Perfect note to end on. Join me in thanking Krista Jenks for this conversation. And look forward to continuing with some of you this afternoon at the Transportation Summit.
Great. Thanks, Gil.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you very much.